Hey guys, this is Nick from ForexNoobs.com with the weekly analysis. Today is Monday, the 30th of April 2018, and the time is 19:01 here in the UK. You're looking at a GBP AUD daily chart. In today's analysis, we're going to be looking for price action setups across all these pairs. Now, when I say price action setups, I mean reversal setups, continuation setups, range-bound trades, all kinds of setups. We're going to be looking for setups across all these pairs. So, let's get started. We're going to kick things off with GBP AUD. There was a trade on GBP AUD last week that we took. Ended up being quite a nice little trade. Right now, it's bouncing from... So basically, let me explain what's happening with GBP AUD. GBP AUD is stuck in a very tight range. So when price is in a tight range, it usually gives us pretty easy trading because you can short the top of the range, long the bottom of the range, short the top, long the bottom, so on and so forth. So last week it was at the top of the range, hit it, boom, fell down, hit the bottom of that range, and now it's already pulling back. If you're not already in a trade on this one, it's a bit too late to enter. It's already pulled back quite a bit. If you wanted to enter, probably would have been on one of the lower time frames. I didn't enter the long trade. I entered the short trade last week, but I didn't enter the long trade. So, oops, not 30-minute, 4-hour. So you probably would have entered somewhere on like the 8-hour or maybe the 12-hour. But it's a bit too late to enter if you're not in this one already, unfortunately. A range trade's higher probability. I mean, yeah, they're quite simple and they're high probability. They're very, very predictable. When price gets stuck in a range, it bounces from top bottom a few times. Then the range kind of establishes itself. Usually the general rule is, general rule I have is 2 bounces from top, 2 bounces from top, 2 bounces from bottom. So once you get that kind of thing established, then you can start trading between that range. And usually they're pretty straightforward and easy trades. You're just looking for reversals from the top and the bottom of the range. It's really not that difficult. It's nothing exciting or nothing amazingly difficult about it. And they are high probability. They're very high chance of working out. You can see several here, just depending on the time frame on GBP AUD, there were quite a few to enter. And as I said, even one right now where you would be in, which looks to be headed to the top of the range. They don't always work out. There was a range trade on EURUSD, because EURUSD was in a range for quite some time. Was in a kind of a weird range, a try range. By try, I mean free support resistance areas, this one here. So this one was bouncing between this one, but also this one towards the end of its life. So there was potential for a long here, which some people entered on the 12-hour. I waited for the daily, so I never got in this one because I was looking for a daily setup. I think you got into it, Ash, didn't you? But yeah, I said on the forum or in the analysis that I was waiting for the daily. So I never ended up getting into this one, luckily, because it didn't work out. So, obviously they don't always work out. Nothing always works out, but ranges are pretty high probability. Right, Ash, that's a good question. Yeah, I mean, you can definitely up your risk on them if you want. For me, I have found that they're high probability, so I would definitely be willing to up my risk on them, and I do sometimes. But I also factor in, the strength of the setup itself. I don't blindly up my risk because it's a range-bound trade. I factor in everything as I always do to decide the strength of that setup and how much I should be risking on that setup. So, it's 1 point in its favor, right? The fact that it's a range-bound trade is 1 point in its favor. But if it has a lot of other negatives, I might skip the trade, or I might enter the trade with lower risk, or whatever. Anyway, let's get back to the analysis because I don't have that long today, unfortunately. AUDJPY is just stuck in between support resistance. Nothing much going on here. Can't really do much when price is between support resistance. AUD New Zealand, this one's pushed up through resistance. Oh yeah, there's nothing much going on here. It's up through resistance, it's stalling, but you know, it's above resistance at this point. So, you know, it might come back down, give us a continuation, but even then, it's a pretty weak bullish trend so far. Sorry, not a weak, a short bullish trend. It hasn't been around for that long, so I wouldn't really call this a major trend that I would want to trade a continuation from. AUDUSD. Now, AUDUSD is stalling on top of this support area. Well, sorry, I'm not going to say stalling. It's stalled for a little while. Now it looks like it's continuing down. So things are a little unclear at the moment because it hasn't really made a new low beyond this low here. So things are a bit unclear. Also, support resistance areas are pretty close together on AUDUSD. This one's a bit tricky. You know, I would be definitely willing to enter a continuation short if it pulls back to this area. Maybe in the next day or two, but right now things are a little bit tricky, so I'm not going to do much with this right now. So we'll check this out in coming days to see if anything develops here. But right now it looks like it's just continuing down, and even if you wanted to be in a short, it's a bit too late. Not to mention we have that support area pretty close, and it's a strong support area. This one, strong support area, very strong bounce here in December 2017. And a few other bounces here back in early 2017. So, yeah. Looks like it's trending down. Tricky to get into a trade if you're not already in one. Euro AUD in between support resistance, pulled away from resistance not yesterday, sorry, last week. But right now it's kind of like just stalling here. So yeah, there's not much to do there. EURGBP, this one's stalling on top of this resistance area. Interesting. See, this is why we look at multiple time frames, because the daily showing us a big indecision candle, but on the 12-hour we're seeing what looks more like a potential for a continuation. Now, I'm not going to say a continuation right now, but potential for a continuation. So 12-hour, we can see it's pushed well above it, coming back down and now stalling on top of this support area. So that could give us a continuation. Let's keep a close eye on this. We might get some sort of setup here. Even if we do, though, it's probably going to be a weak setup. I'm not... Yeah, the preceding trend's weak. So not terribly excited over this, but we'll keep an eye on it because why not? We haven't got much else to look at so far. So we'll keep an eye on this EURGBP, see what's happening. EURGPY. EURGPY looks like it's pulled back from this resistance area up here. Now it's stalling on support. This could be the start of an uptrend. This could be a continuation of this uptrend. Even if it is, let's zoom in, not zoom out. Zoom in, make it easier for everyone to see. Even if this is the start of a new bullish trend, it's a weak start to a bullish trend, so I wouldn't be too excited about it. But this could give us a potential continuation, maybe, something like that. Maybe even up to here. Let's keep an eye on it. Let's see what happens. It doesn't look that great, but, you know, we don't have that many setups right now, so we may as well mark this one and just see how it plays out. Ash, does the trend direction before the range forms matter? No, not really. Sorry, I didn't notice that question, but going back to what we were talking about with range-bound trades, no, not really. A range is the end of the trend, so the trend going into the range doesn't really matter anymore. Ooh, EURUSD, interesting. This actually looks quite good on the daily. All right, let me tell you why this looks good. I'm actually really interested in EURUSD. I didn't notice this when I first switched to this chart earlier, but now that I'm looking for actual setups, this looks quite good. So EURUSD has dropped down, fallen out of its range, but now it's hitting that support area. So its first hit of that support area, it pulled away really quickly. Let's drill down to like the 4 hour to get an idea of what I'm talking about. See how it tapped this support area? Pushed away really quickly. Be even more apparent on maybe the 1 hour. See, boom, pushed away. So it looks to be a pretty strong support area. It has some bounces in the past on the daily, some pretty significant bounces here. It looks to be a pretty strong support area, but this is also supported by the 200 SMA. 200 SMA is just a moving support resistance area. That's all it is, really. It's used by banks, by hedge funds, by the big boys as a kind of dividing line between bullish trends and bearish trends. And you'll find a lot of the times you get pretty strong bounces from the 200 SMA, especially when it first crosses. So now it's been above it for quite some time on the daily. So it's not as significant, but when it first crosses, usually the bounces are quite a bit stronger. But that being said, it doesn't mean that this is completely invalid. It's still quite significant. 200 SMA plus the support area. It's already showing signs of stalling on the support area. Let's keep a close eye on this. We might get a potential long trade forming here. A long reversal trade. I'd want price ideally to fall into this support area before taking a long for a better risk to reward ratio, but we're just going to have to wait and see how that plays out. GBPJPY. Now GBPJPY is stalling on top of the support area. We've had quite a lot of bearish momentum in the last, I don't know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So 2 weeks, let's say. Price dropped, pulled back a little bit, and now has dropped again. But it's again stalling on this support area. And overall, if you take a look at the trend, it is still technically in a bullish trend. So, you know, there is potential for a bullish continuation here, but it doesn't look that great. But you know what? May as well keep an eye on it, because why not? So I'm looking for a potential bullish continuation on GBPJPY. GBPUSD, ooh, that looks good. That is some solid indecision on top of this support area. This is a pretty strong support area. Held price back on its previous attempt to get below it. Boom, like that. Held price back on the attempt before that. So it's a pretty solid support area. Price has difficulty getting below it. So we could, yeah, obviously, you know, if you switch over to like the monthly, we see a strong uptrend, even on the weekly. I don't know why I picked the monthly. Weekly is better to illustrate this. Obviously, on the weekly, we have a pretty strong bullish trend. You could even probably draw a trend. I'm not a big trend line guy. I'm just saying that you can get sort of a trend line going here. I hate how my trend lines do that. They go all weird. I don't know why. It's a bug with TradingView, I believe. But anyway, you can get a trend line going on the weekly. I'm not a big trend line guy, like I said, but I don't discount that trend lines do have, you know, they are applicable in trading. They do have a use. I just don't really find them that useful for my own analysis, but they do have a use. They are a good tool for trading. And as we can see, prices are directly on that weekly trend line. It's directly on top of our support area, strong support area with several bounces in the past. How long ago was this? This was February, well, no, the start of March 2018, and before that was 12th of Feb 2018. So this is a strong support area, guys. Strong support area on a weekly trend line. We would be countering a very strong bearish move, So we would be countering that strong bearish move. But hey, last few times has also been strong bearish moves. This one was quite strong. This one not as strong, but quite strong bearish move. So yeah, potential for a reversal here, guys. Let's keep it close. That one's the best one so far for this week. To kick things off this week, that's the best we have so far. New Zealand JPY between support resistance, whatever. New Zealand USD. Now, New Zealand USD looks a lot like another pair we were looking at. I just can't remember which pair it was. It's like a mirror image of it. What was it? AUDUSD. There we go. Like mirror image of it. Look at this. This part of it here. Wait, let me highlight it. That part. Look at it. Almost indistinguishable, right? Same thing is going on here. We got price stalling on a major support area, but after it stalled, it started to dip down, and now it's made a new low, so it does look like this one might be headed down. So I will be looking for a pullback and a continuation. But right now, this one's a bit better than the AUDUSD because it's already made that new low. So it definitely looks like this one's going to continue down. Yeah, I don't know. Let's just see how it plays out, though. I'm not. I guess we can monitor it. We can even monitor AUDUSD. I mean, why not? We could just come back to it in a few hours and just see how it's developing, and then come back a few hours after that and see how it's developing. But right now, there's no imminent setups on New Zealand USD or AUDUSD, but it's definitely worth watching because these are strong bearish moves. And they do seem to be continuing down, so that could give us a continuation. USD CAD is just pushing up against this resistance area. This is a pretty large resistance area. Just because I have it up here, it doesn't mean that there's only resistance up here. You know, in reality, there's resistance throughout all of here. This is a pretty big zone of resistance. So price is definitely stalling at resistance here. But it's just condensing. This happens sometimes. You know, if you look at it on the weekly, it'll look more like a kind of classic reversal setup. You know, this is not uncommon, this kind of thing. But as it stands right now, I'm not really looking for trades from here, so. USD CHF, this one just doesn't want to stop pushing up, does it? Just up and up and up and up and up. It's about to hit that one. Getting very close to it. Last time it got to one, it got just above it and it pulled away real quick. So yeah, let's see how it plays out here. Place an area there too. Now I have resistance up here based on this previous bounce and a few things through here. It's hard to get good support resistance for USD CAD to be on for USD CHF to be honest. It's a bit of a weird pair. See that big drop in 2015 Jan that hurt a lot of traders. Yeah, I would say these are pretty solid areas of support resistance. Prices are bouncing up against this one right now. Let's just see what happens here, but there's no imminent trade. So USDJPY, that's kind of interesting, sort of. Again, on the weekly, looks a lot better. Keep an eye on this. It's actually looks pretty decent. I'm not much of a weekly trader, but we could be shaping up things could be shaping up for a long-term move down on USDJPY. Now, look, I'm not saying that there is going to be a long-term move down on USDJPY. I'm just saying what we're looking at right now could give us the possibility of a reversal, a bearish reversal. So it could give us the possibility of a move down. Now, when I say stuff like that, I'm not committing to that. I'm not saying I think USDJPY is going to move down. I just think there is potential for that here. So let's see what happens here next week. But this is more of a long-term thing, and that's not the scope of this analysis. So we're not really going to spend too much time on it. We'll just check back in next week, see how it plays out. But there is definite signs of price stalling at this resistance area. It's been stalling there since the week before last when it got up to here, pulled back, then sorry, not the week before last, I meant to say last week, came up to here, pulled back, and now at the moment it's stalling on here. So let's see how this current week closes, and we'll see if anything forms here. But anyway, gold and silver we're not really trading, so let's not do those. So we have quite a few potentials this week. Switch over to the flag list. New Zealand USD and AUDUSD are the least good ones. EURGBP, let's just keep an eye on it on the 12-hour perhaps for a continuation. Doesn't look too great, but let's keep an eye on it anyway. EURGBPY, yeah, I mean, let's just keep an eye on it. Again, it doesn't look too great, but it doesn't look great at all. Really, I don't want to keep an eye on this. This one's off the list. I just added this one because it looks semi-interesting, but it's not that good. EURUSD price is falling into support. Let's keep a close eye on this. A close eye on the support area. It's a strong support area. Very solid support with a 200 SMA right below it. So that's kind of like a double support. A 200 SMA is essentially just a moving support resistance area, self-adjusting support resistance area. And when it gets close with one of our normal support resistance areas, you do tend to get some pretty nice setups forming. So this could give us a nice long bullish reversal. GBPJPY stalling around here. We just got to watch this one, see how it pans out. There's potential here for a long trade. Potential. I mean, it's definitely stalling on the support area, and it's a decent support area, so there's potential here. But it would be a risky, potentially a risky trade just based on the risk to reward ratio, because it's going to be a bit tricky getting a good entry on this one, given the size of this candle here. That usually makes entries and stop losses tricky, because it's always good to have a stop loss below the lowest point that's been hit recently. So the size of this candle would if you want to have a safe stop, would force your stop to be a little bit low. Oh yeah, actually, we always wait for tomorrow's candle. GBPUSD is the best looking one today, stalling on top of support, strong support area. Several attempts at breaking it have failed. Yeah, solid support, looks good. It is, look at that, look how cool. I love it when this happens. Look how that lines up. It's perfect. It matches the low of this candle perfectly. Picture perfect match. But anyway, it's stalling on this support area, so you know it looks decent. I'm looking for a potential bullish reversal here. New Zealand USD, maybe a continuation. Let's see how that plays out. AUDUSD, maybe a continuation. Let's see how that plays out. But these two are not that great. GBPUSD, top of the list. The others, EURGBP, EURUSD, GBPJPY look decent. New Zealand USD and AUDUSD, we're just going to keep an eye on them and see how they develop. Are there any questions?